My name is Zara Malik, and until tonight, I thought I'd mastered the art of being invisible. I stand at the edge of the stage lights, heart hammering a rhythm I can't quite catch. Below me, a sea of faces, some curious, some bored, most scanning their phones, waits for the next segment of Global Icons Live, the television special that's catapulted countless entrepreneurs into overnight fame. They don't know me yet. They don't know what I've survived. I take a steadying breath, remembering the day I was born, a humid summer afternoon in Karachi, the hospital corridor thick with the smell of antiseptic and fear. I was the third daughter in a family that already had two girls. My grandmother wept when the doctor handed me to my mother. "Another girl," she muttered. "What will bring honor now?" I don't recall the sting of her words, that memory was hidden behind the sharper pain of hunger, cold nights, and my mother's quiet cries. What I do remember is my father's silence. He never touched me. He never named me. For years, I remained Wo Bakcha, that child. Until I wasn't. Tonight, I am here to unveil the brand I built from nothing, Noor, a luxury skincare line rooted in ancient South Asian beauty rituals. And as much as I ache for my family's approval, I'm determined they will watch me on every screen available. A stagehand whispers into my earpiece, 30 seconds. My pulse staggers. I clutch the polished wooden podium, feeling its cool solidity. I've rehearsed this opening 1,000 times, but nothing can steel you against the cavernous silence that greets your first words on live television. I look out at the cameras, the spotlights refracting off the crystal chandelier hanging above. My reflection catches in the glass, an elegant woman in a simple ivory sari, her dark hair pulled back, and a single jasmine flower tucked behind her ear. Behind the poise and polish, though, lie scars no makeup can conceal. I clear my throat. "My name is Zara Malik," I begin, voice steady. The cue lights blink red. "When I was born, my family said I was a shame. They left me at the hospital gate with a note that read, 'Take her or let her die.'" A collective gasp ripples through the audience, some in disbelief, others in shock. I allow the moment to stretch. Pain can be a powerful magnet. "I should have died there," I continue, chin lifting. "But an old woman, no one knew her name, rescued me. She took me to her village outside Multan, where she raised me as her own." The cameras pan across my face, their lenses catch the sheen of tears I refuse to wipe away. My grandmother's voice from 50 years ago seems to echo in my head. "What will bring honor now?" "What brought honor," I say softly, "was love." I tell them about Amu, my savior, my grandmother in every sense, who braided my hair, taught me to read, and showed me the power of self-worth. I tell them how, at 16, I began making herbal lotions from rose petals and fenugreek seeds in Amu's courtyard. By 20, those lotions had healed my own scarred skin and sparked whispers of a miracle cream. And now, I say, voice rising with conviction, the baby they didn't want is the face of a global brand. Applause thunders through the studio. For a moment, I close my eyes and let it wash over me. Yet beneath the roar lies a twist yet to come, one they won't see coming. Because tomorrow, when Noor's flagship store opens in London's Mayfair district, my family back in Karachi will be watching. And not just to congratulate me. They will be there, too. I step back from the podium and lift the veil on a mirrored panel behind me. It slides open to reveal a display of gleaming glass bottles embossed with Arabic calligraphy, Noor's signature line of serums and oils. The studio lights catch the golden liquid inside, making it glow like liquid sunlight. Tonight, I say, turning to face them all, marks the beginning, not just of a product launch, but of a reckoning. A final flash from the cameras, and I leave the stage. Backstage, the air feels thin, electric. My manager, Aisha, envelopes me in a hug. "You nailed it," she whispers. "They're going to eat it up." I force a smile. "Thank you." But my thoughts are already racing ahead. First, there is London. Then New York, Paris, Dubai, the world will kneel before Noor. And somewhere in the chaos of celebratory dinners and red carpet events, I will find my mother and father. I will make them see. Because the shame they cast upon me has become the armor I wear. And soon, they will understand that the child they discarded is untouchable. The hiss of my phone announces a message from my cousin, Nadia. Have you seen the show? Mother is furious. She says you're embarrassing the family. I stare at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply. Furious or ashamed? Either way, they're feeling something. I slip the phone into my clutch. Tonight, I will celebrate with my team. Tomorrow, I will confront my past. But for now, I let the taste of victory settle on my tongue, sweet and dangerous. And I know, this is only the beginning. The London dawn broke in muted greys as I gazed out from my suite on Grosvenor Street. Through the veil of rain-slicked windows, I could just make out the wrought iron balconies of Mayfair's townhouses, symbols of old money and old prejudices. Yet here, nestled between centuries-old facades, stood Neura's flagship boutique, my newest conquest. I slipped into a tailored charcoal suit, slim, modern, defiant of everything my family ever expected of me, and descended to the grand lobby. My heels clicked on marble floors as I passed guests wrapped in Burberry and Hermès. They eyed me curiously, perhaps wondering who the South Asian woman was claiming prime retail real estate in their exclusive enclave. A soft chime announced my entry into the boutique. The interior was a dreamscape of polished white marble, brushed gold fittings, and alabaster display pedestals. Rows of my serums, oils, and creams glistened under recessed lighting. A wall-mounted screen showcased my story in a loop. The abandoned infant, the village healer, the rise of a global brand. I felt a strange duality, pride in what I'd built and an icy tremor of anticipation. Today would be the real test. Would my family dare show their faces at the grand opening? By mid-morning, the guest list had arrived, beauty editors from Vogue UK, influencers with millions of followers, and a handful of British aristocrats infamous for their discerning tastes. Closest to the door stood a compact woman draped in pashmina, her silver hair coiled into a perfect chignon. My heart clenched. Mother. She surveyed the boutique with narrowed eyes, tracing the fine gold filigree on a serum bottle with a gloved fingertip. A bead of rainwater trailed down the window behind her. I found myself holding my breath. Zara, she said, voice low and brittle, as I approached. Her hammered red shawl stood out against the white marble, a flash of her old-world elegance. You look different. I forced a warm smile. Thank you for coming. She folded her arms. Only because father insisted. Her gaze flicked toward the entrance. Where is he? I turned to see him emerge from the crowd, tall, broad-shouldered, his tailored navy blazer draping over him like armor. His face was set in that same expressionless mask I remembered from my childhood. He stopped beside Mother, both of them watching me. Father, I greeted, voice steady though my chest felt tight. I'm so glad you're here. He nodded once. No hug, no warmth. Just presence. Behind them, cousins and aunts whispered among themselves, their stiff backs betraying discomfort. I recognized a few faces, relatives who once told me I'd never amount to anything. I cleared my throat and stepped onto a raised platform where I'd prepared a brief speech. Welcome to the first Near flagship store, I began, scanning the room. The assembled crowd of dignitaries and press fell silent, turned inward to me. This store represents more than just beauty products. It's the culmination of a journey that began with rejection and led to resilience. I paused, allowing the weight of my words to sink in. Mother's lips thinned, father's jaw clenched. I created Nur to honor the ancient rituals passed down by the women who raised me, I continued, letting my gaze drift back to the silver-haired healer who had saved me decades ago. My grandmother, Amu, believed that true beauty comes from self-love and self-care. Each bottle you see here contains not just ingredients, but memories of strength and survival. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Influencers recorded snippets. I concluded, tonight, we begin a new chapter, not just for Noor, but for every woman who was ever told she was less than worthy. I tapped a decorative button on the podium and, with a soft click, the display cases unlocked. Guests pressed forward, reaching for bottles encased in velvet-lined drawers. As the crowd dispersed to mingle and sample products, I sought out mother and father again. I found them standing beside a tall mirror reflecting the boutique's gleaming interior. I joined them. "Do you like it?" I asked. Mother's reflection lingered on mine. Finally, she exhaled. "It's beautiful." But her tone held no pride, only awe mixed with something darker, something almost fearful. Father remained silent, but I saw his eyes flicker over the Arabic calligraphy etched on the bottles, the same script that once marked me as unwanted. Now, it marked a luxury that would be coveted across continents. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Security parted for a group of men in crisp suits. My heart stuttered. Bodyguards? Celebrities? No. They approached with purpose. I scanned their faces until I recognized one, Karim Sheikh, my childhood tormentor turned local politician. Next to him was his wife, her arms adorned with gold bangles like she was already impressed by my success. Behind them, two other men I didn't know. Karim's lips curled into a patronizing smile. "Zara Malik," he drawled. "Fancy meeting you here." My pulse thundered. Karim had been the son of the village landlord, the boy who sneered at me while neighbors cooed over his future and spat on mine. His family had been instrumental in my abandonment. Now, he stood in my London boutique. I gave him a polite nod. "Mr. Sheikh." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I must admit, I didn't expect you'd come this far." He tapped a finger against one of the glass cases. "Your products, they're impressive." I tilted my head. "Thank you." His smile turned cold. "You know, they say the ones who rise fastest can fall hardest. Especially when they forget their place." A hush fell over the nearby guests. Karim's words dripped with threat. I felt Mother's gasp beside me. I squared my shoulders. "Noor rises on merit, Mr. Sheikh. Not on birthright." He laughed softly, a sound devoid of humor. A clever retort. "But remember, this is my city too. And I have friends in high places." Without waiting for a reply, he turned and strode away, his entourage parting like the Red Sea. My blood boiled. I wanted to chase after him, slap him across the face, remind him who I was. But I forced myself to remain composed. I inhaled a slow, measured breath. This was war, but not one won by blunt force. It would be won by strategy. I excused myself and moved to the back room, where my team was setting up samples and refreshments. Aisha looked up, concern flashing in her eyes. "He messes with the wrong person," I said quietly, retrieving my phone. "A text from Nadia, Mother wants to meet you alone before you leave." My breath caught. A private meeting? Dangerous. But I had to face her. I returned to Mother and asked, "Shall we?" She nodded, and we slipped through a side door into a small VIP lounge. Once the door closed behind us, Mother's posture softened. She sank onto an ivory velvet sofa. "Zara," she began, voice trembling, "I'm scared." I perched on the edge of the matching chair. "Scared of what?" "Of him," she said, gesturing vaguely at the boutique beyond the glass partition. Karim Sheikh, he's powerful. If he wanted to ruin you, he could." Her eyes glistened. "I never told you, your father owes him favors." Anger flared. "Favor for abandoning me?" The words twisted in my throat. "Favor for letting me die?" Mother shook her head, tears spilling. "Not me. Your father, he was desperate. He signed some papers with Sheikh's father. He thought if he gave you up, he could save the rest of us from the landlord's wrath." My chest tightened. "So you sacrificed me instead?" Mother's lip quivered. I was helpless. We all were. Silence stretched, heavy as iron. I closed my eyes and thought of Amu's gentle hands, of rose petals drying in the sun. I felt the urge to scream, to deliver a blow, but instead, I reached out and laid my hand over Mother's. "Thank you for telling me," I whispered. "It doesn't excuse what happened." "But," I squeezed her hand. "I'm not going anywhere." She looked up, hope mingling with fear. "What will you do?" I stood, resolve hardening. "I'm going to make Noor unstoppable. I'll protect this brand, our legacy, no matter what he or anyone else does." Mother nodded, tears on her cheeks. "I'll help you," she vowed. A chime from my phone alerted me to another message, this time from an unknown number. "Be careful. We have eyes everywhere." I slipped the phone back into my pocket. The stakes just got higher. Back in the boutique, the opening event wound down under the ornate chandelier. My father approached me, his usual reserve replaced by a rare vulnerability. "Be careful, Zara," he said, voice low. "For all our sakes." I nodded. "I will, father." As I left the store that evening, rain had begun to fall again, tiny droplets pattering against the awning. I stood beneath the glow of the Noor sign, watching the rain transform each golden letter into a halo. The world believed they'd seen my beginning. They had no idea the storm gathering on the horizon, and how I planned to harness it. Tomorrow, I would confront Karim Sheikh. And the day after, I would expand Noor into new markets. Piece by piece, I would rebuild my past into my future. And no one, not even the family who abandoned me, would dare stand in my way. Because I was more than a shame. I was a force. And my reckoning had only just begun. I awoke before dawn, the London sky still cloaked in ink. Sleeplessness had become my companion, an ever-present reminder that success carried its own burdens. I dressed in charcoal slacks and a crisp white blouse, fastening a delicate gold locket around my neck. Inside rested a faded photograph of Amu cradling me as a baby, the image that grounded me when ambition threatened to surge beyond control. My destination was the Knightsbridge Club, an exclusive members-only lounge where Karim Sheikh often conducted his business dealings. He'd agreed to meet to discuss potential partnerships, though I suspected his real motive was intimidation. Either way, I intended to flip the script. The doorman, draped in navy and silver, scrutinized me through the rain-spattered glass doors. "Ms. Malik?" he asked, tipping his cap. I nodded and entered, greeted by the low hum of hushed conversations and the scent of polished oak. Karim sat in a leather booth beneath a crystal chandelier. He looked as polished as ever, immaculate suit, gleaming cufflinks, his smirk waiting. He gestured to the seat opposite him. I slid into the velvet seat, placing my clutch on the table like a gauntlet thrown. "Thank you for meeting me," I began, voice calm. "You suggested a partnership. I'm all ears." He leaned back, one arm draped over the booth's high backrest. Zara," he said, feigning affection. "You must understand, you're making waves in circles that don't take kindly to outsiders, especially ones who achieve overnight success." I folded my hands. "I've worked 10 years for this. I'm beyond outsider." His smirk wavered. "Perhaps. But waves can drown you. I'm here to offer guidance." "Guidance?" I repeated. "Like the guidance you and your father offered my parents when they abandoned me." His eyes flickered, surprise or annoyance, I couldn't tell. He cleared his throat. "That was a matter of survival. This is a matter of business." I leaned in. "No. This is personal." He studied me, as if weighing whether to confess sins or strike a deal. Finally, he gestured for a waiter. We ordered tea, Earl Grey for him, masala chai for me, a subtle reminder of where I came from. The waiter retreated, and Karim set his cup down. "You built something remarkable," he said quietly. "I'll give you that. But there are markets you can't enter without local allies. China, Russia, even parts of Europe. I can open those doors." My pulse quickened. International expansion had been my next milestone, but I'd planned to rely on my own network. At what cost? He steepled his fingers. A percentage of profits, standard finder's fee. He waved his hand airily. In return, we handle customs, distribution, marketing. You focus on the product. I pictured the gleaming near boutiques I dreamed of, Beijing's Wangfujing, Moscow's GUM, Paris's Champs-Élysées. All within reach if I played his game. But every promise from Karim carried an implied threat, loyalty or ruin. I appreciate the offer, I said, but I'm not interested. His smile froze. Is that a refusal? I met his gaze. It's a boundary. He leaned forward, voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Boundaries are made to be tested. My breath caught. The surrounding lounge blurred, the patrons, the chandeliers, the piano playing softly in the corner. I felt Amu's presence instead, her croaking voice teaching me resilience. I straightened. Then we part ways here, I said. I'll find other partners. He laughed, a hollow, humorless sound. You think you have time? My associates will lose patience. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a message from Aisha. Boston buyer pulled out. They cited logistical concerns. Karim's eyebrows lifted. Sounds like my associates already made a move. I clenched my jaw. This was more than phased-out buyers, it was a systematic campaign to isolate Noor. You're behind this? I asked evenly. He shook his head. I'm just the messenger. I stood, smoothing my blazer. Then I'll send a reply. He let out a sigh as I slipped past him into the lounge. Be careful, Zara. Pride can be fatal. I didn't look back. Outside, the rain had ceased, leaving the streets gleaming like onyx. I hailed a black cab and slid into the back seat, gripping the armrest until my knuckles whitened. My thoughts raced, find new markets, shore up suppliers, reassure investors. But beneath the business calculus lay a deeper strategy, one of leverage and counterstrike. Back at the hotel, I convened an emergency video conference with my core team, Aisha, my COO Marco, and Ria, my head of international sales. Their faces flickered on the screen. Boston pulled out, I said, relaying the message. This isn't logistical. It's sabotage. Marco rubbed his chin. We've had inquiries from Dubai and Singapore backed out at the last minute, too. It follows a pattern, markets where Karim's influence runs deep. Ria frowned. He's using political leverage to stall us. Aisha tapped her pen thoughtfully. We need to diversify our channels, bypass traditional distributors. Direct to consumer via our app and pop-ups in key locations. I nodded. And we'll accelerate the May launch of our Asia-Pacific line. If we can demonstrate strong sales in Tokyo and Seoul, we'll force other markets to follow. Marco brightened. I have contacts in Tokyo. I can arrange a 2-week pop-up at Omotesando by July. I smiled. Each setback Karim orchestrated would rebound on him. Do it. Ria, initiate the app rollout plan. Aisha, prepare the press release, Noor goes direct, new digital sales platform launching next month. Emphasize our commitment to customers over middlemen. They all agreed, determination lighting their faces. As the call ended, I leaned back, exhaling a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. I opened my locket and stared at Amu's photo. We'll show them, I whispered. We'll show them all. A knock announced my assistant. She handed me a sealed envelope postmarked Karachi. I slid it open. Inside was a single page, a black and white photograph of my abandoned infant bracelet, marked with the hospital's ID, and beneath it, the words, remember who you were. Or you'll forget who you are. My heart thundered. Someone knew. I pocketed the photograph and straightened, slipping on my coat. The night was still, but the game had changed. Karim's move had been bold, now it was my turn to strike back. And I intended to remind him, and the world, that Zara Malik wasn't just a survivor. I was a strategist. A visionary. A force to be reckoned with. Because the past may linger in shadows, but I carried its light wherever I went. And Noor would shine brighter than any attempt to dim it. The following week was war. Not the kind waged with bullets and bombs, but with silence, power, and strategy. Karim had made his move, and now it was my turn. I started by buying up shelf space in 5 major airports: Tokyo, Doha, JFK, Heathrow, and Dubai, outbidding competitors by stretching every inch of our marketing budget. If they wanted to block us through traditional retailers, I'd bring Noor to the skies. Let every frequent flyer carry a piece of the brand they tried to erase. The app launch went live with a surprise livestream. I stood in front of a gold screen, Noor embossed behind me, and spoke straight to the camera. My name is Zara Malik. And 10 years ago, I was told I didn't belong in this world. That I was a mistake. A burden. A disappointment. Today, Noor launches in 60 countries without a single distributor. No gatekeepers. Just our story, and your power to wear it. We sold out in 12 hours. But just as I allowed myself to breathe, the past came knocking again. This time in the form of an invitation. A silver envelope, hand-delivered. The Legacy Gala. Hosted by the House of Chic. Honoring innovation and cultural excellence. Recipient, Zara Malik, Noor founder. I nearly laughed. A public event, hosted by Karim's family. A place where legacy met influence. And now they wanted to parade me as a success story, not because they'd changed, but because my brand had become too big to ignore. I stared at the RSVP card. Attending would mean facing the very people who once whispered behind closed doors that I should never have been born. The uncles who told my mother to give up and try again. The aunties who smiled while cutting her soul in half with their judgment. And my father, who signed away his rights and disappeared the moment I arrived. I could burn the invite. Or, I could show up and make sure they never forgot what they threw away. I chose the latter. The Legacy Gala was held in a marble-clad ballroom in Karachi, lit by chandeliers the size of cars. Cameras flashed as I stepped onto the red carpet, wrapped in a deep emerald sari stitched by artisans I'd personally hired through Noor's ethical fashion program. My heels clicked on polished stone. The crowd parted. Karim saw me before I saw him. He stood near the stage, drink in hand, dressed in tailored arrogance. But even he looked surprised when the crowd erupted into whispers and applause. She's the Noor girl. That's Zara Malik, didn't she used to be? I heard she was adopted. Or abandoned. Something like that. Yes. Something like that. I posed for photos, smiled for reporters, and made my way to the central table, reserved for honored guests. As I sat down, I saw them. My father, seated beside Karim's father. Graying, thinner than I remembered, but unmistakable. His gaze flicked up. Met mine. And dropped. He knew who I was. He just couldn't bring himself to say it. The announcer called me to the stage. I walked slowly, savoring every step, every hush, every look of disbelief. When I took the mic, I looked around the room. So many faces from my childhood. So many lies. So much shame they'd thrown like daggers. And now they were listening. My name, I began, voice steady, is Zara Malik. And tonight, I want to thank every person in this room who doubted me. The audience blinked. You gave me silence when I needed support. You gave me pity when I needed pride. You gave me a reason to build a brand for girls like me, born unwanted, told to shrink, told to disappear. Gasps. I continued. When my mother chose to raise me alone, she was told it would ruin her. That she should hide the mistake. That I was the stain on her legacy. But she didn't hide me. She protected me. She taught me to speak. I held up the bracelet from the photo Karim had sent, the hospital tag they left on my wrist. This is what they left behind when they walked away. Now, it's a charm on the bracelet worn by 2 million women around the world. Applause. Some real. Some awkward. Some slow. I scanned the crowd. Kareem's face was unreadable. My father's was pale, as if he'd seen a ghost. I used to wonder who I was, I finished. Now I know, I am the name you tried to erase. And this, everything Noor stands for, is what happens when the erased take the mic. I walked off the stage as the hall exploded, not in cheers, but stunned silence. The kind that follows truth when it lands like a storm. Backstage, a reporter rushed up. Zara, was that directed at anyone in particular? I smiled. Yes, I said. It was for everyone who thinks legacy comes from blood. Because mine came from scars, and I wore them like silk. A week after the gala, everything changed. Noor's app downloads spiked by 300%. The bracelet I'd shown on stage, the one from the hospital, sold out within 4 hours of its limited release. Headlines across the world read: Zara Malik stunts the Legacy Gala with truth bomb speech. From abandoned to icon, the Noor journey. The baby they rejected is now a billion-dollar brand. But more powerful than the headlines were the letters. Hundreds, then thousands, of messages from girls, women, even mothers. I was told my daughter would ruin me. I'm naming her Zara now. Thank you for making unwanted mean unstoppable. I never knew I had a voice until I saw you use yours. I didn't cry, not until I read one message that simply said, "You were never a mistake. You were the mirror we needed." But while the world praised, the shadows stirred. Kareem went silent. I heard whispers, investors pulling out from his textile firm, rumors of audits and internal leaks. Power built on intimidation doesn't last. And once I exposed the cracks, the dam began to break. Then came the moment I never expected. My assistant knocked softly on my office door. "There's someone here to see you, says he's family." I froze. He stepped in slowly, my father. The man who once walked away without looking back. He looked older now. Defeated. His eyes, once sharp and commanding, were now tired, haunted. "I saw your speech," he said. Everyone did. I said nothing. Let silence weigh heavy between us. He fumbled with a small velvet pouch, placing it on my desk. This was hers. Your mother's. She wore it when she was pregnant with you. Inside was a delicate anklet. Simple. Silver. Etched with my mother's name. "I never deserved her," he said, voice breaking. "And I certainly didn't deserve you." Still, I said nothing. Not because I hadn't dreamed of this moment, but because I'd outgrown the need for it. After a long pause, he asked, "Will you ever forgive me?" I looked up, not with anger, but with the poise of the woman I'd become. Forgiveness isn't mine to give anymore. I gave it to myself a long time ago. He nodded, understanding. He turned to leave. Just before the door closed behind him, I said softly, "Thank you for walking away." He paused. Why? Because if you hadn't, I might have grown up in the shadow of your shame. Instead, I rose in the light of my own name. A year later, I stood atop a rooftop in Manhattan, facing a digital billboard in Times Square. It was the launch of Noor's Legacy collection, featuring real stories from real women across the world who overcame abandonment, silence, and cultural shame. And at the center of the campaign, me. My image faded in, no filters, no edits. Just me in that same hospital bracelet and the silver anklet around my ankle. The tagline flashed. Noor, for the names they tried to erase. Behind me, my team cheered. Below, strangers took pictures, smiled, and watched. I closed my eyes, breathed it all in, and remembered the little girl once called Shame. She was now the face of a global brand. Not for revenge. Not for validation. But for every soul still waiting to be seen. My name is Zara Malik. And I was never a mistake. I was the miracle they almost missed.